Hey guys, I wanted to talk today about continuing to allow yourself to be expressive, vulnerable, and feeling the sensations in your body while still maintaining your power out in the world, within friendships, romantic relationships, work relationships, and with physicians. I've been finding that over the course of my life, I have been easily derailed when someone tells me to be less emotional, less vulnerable, that I'm too much of a girl, that I need to try a different method of medication or yoga or insert whatever modality, or that something is just dismissed as stress related or anxiety related. So for me, my issue is that I would go to a person or a physician and I would say, my body is feeling this and I'm feeling very emotional about it. And their reaction would be, have you tried yoga, Ayurveda, supplements, insert whatever? Or an answer could be, you're just not saying positive enough. Or another could be, clearly you're not feeling this. I can't find evidence of it, so it's not true. And then I would shrink back down and I would go in my own head and I would do some really fucked up mental gymnastics in there, and they would say something like, you're crazy. Obviously you're making this up. Obviously you're not suffering enough for someone to understand. Obviously I'm wrong, even though it's my body. And I would go into this just very, very dark place. And I'm saying this in past tense, but this happened just yesterday when I went to the doctor. So how do we maintain our power while staying open and emotional? That balance is very hard. I'm not saying I know how to do it. I'm just kind of speaking about it and sharing what I've been trying. I'm not saying there's a formula or that this is right. But what I'm finding helps the most is to kind of put up like a shield of armor mentally, which is I sit with myself and I figure out who I know myself to be and what I know my experience to be in my body and in my mind before I go into a situation. So I've been struggling lately thinking that I'm too emotional about my illness within my relationship. And I was getting like very self-conscious, very anxious about being too emotional and too expressive and thinking that like that person would leave me because I'm being too much of this. And just yesterday and the last couple of days before that, I was like, okay, well, this is my experience. And yes, it would be great to be more positive, but this is my current state and it feels very authentic and it doesn't feel dramatic and it feels like it needs to be let out and released. And if this person cannot be okay with this, then they're not for me. And when I had this conversation with this person, they said exactly that they're not taking on any of my emotions or my expression of my body pains. They're not taking it on. They're not choosing to attach it to my worth as a person, or it's not bothering them currently in our relationship. So that was, of course, really helpful, but I had to be just as okay walking into that and being expressive and having them say, you know what, this is too much for me. I can't handle it. And if that's the case, at least I had been coming from this place of authenticity and truth. So how that can be applied into work situations is really uncomfortable because, to be honest with you, it can cost us our job. But there's a line for me of authenticity that I have to let out because I can't hide this anymore. It's not hideable. So, someone says, how are you doing today? And I will answer very honestly and I will say, I feel like shit. My arm is burning. my leg is weak, I'm having tremors. And oftentimes they don't really know how to react to that. So I will say, I know that's not the answer that you expected, but I can't lie. And I don't think that in our society we should have to lie anymore. So just know that if you ask me how I'm doing, I will be completely honest. And the way that that has played out with my boss has been positive because it has helped them actually really understand that I can't pretend this is not happening anymore and that it's highly affecting me and it's really fucking with me and it's hurting my ability to work. So right now I'm working at home. And that's so important to have that accommodation because I need that wiggle room. Because if I don't have that wiggle room, it's black or white. White being, you know what? I can work full time. I can pretend so well and I can keep going. Black being, I'm done, have to quit, I'm fucked. And right now, I get to be in the middle. And so I know that this is not the norm, but I feel like the more that I have this dialogue with my employer and people around me, the more maybe a little bit I can help shift the way that our society thinks about being emotional and vulnerable about our disabilities in public and at work, because we can't fucking control it. And we still have the desire to work. We still have the desire to do our job, but this is getting in the way. I went to a doctor's appointment yesterday, and I want to say, like, you know, I deployed all these great methods in the appointment, and I did to a certain extent. I did not lose my shit till the very end. And I'm not saying that crying or being emotional or losing your shit is actually a bad thing. Doctors should be able to see past that, take it in, but also see past it and hear the words that you're saying and saying, like, these are my symptoms, this is when it's happening, this is how severe it is, this is what it looks like, and still be able to take that even though you're crying while you're saying it. But yesterday, I went in with a bit more of a calm state of mind, and that might be the cheerleading from my partner just saying, you know what, just go in and just be open. They may not tell you anything, but at least you can check this particular thing mostly off of your list or off your list. So I went in, and it was helpful that I had a doctor that was listening. She was making eye contact with me. She was a woman, and to be honest, that's usually more helpful, truth be told, in my experience. And she was open about how things, you know, didn't seem like this and did seem like this. And she did mention, you know, could this be stress? Although it wasn't something I wanted to hear, the way that she said it was much more gentle and empathetic than any other physician I had come across. And I sat with myself for that second, because normally I would just say, oh, maybe, yeah, sure, it is. And I would just agree and just shrink back down. And this time I sat and I let myself breathe and I said, sure, I'm sure that stress can be impacting something that's already in existence, but I don't think it's the root cause of what is happening. And that was the first time I stood up for myself to someone saying, is it stress? Are you just depressed? You know, something like that. Because I sat with myself enough to know before going into that appointment that no, I don't think that's what it is. So I had the ability in that moment to speak up and advocate for myself, which is actually very difficult for, you know, someone who's talking to you with a medical degree and more knowledge. But just remember that in that scenario, these doctors are working for you. You are paying their bills, and it's not in your best interest to dictate to them exactly, you know, that you think you know everything, but they certainly don't know everything either. So meeting in the middle and having a meeting of knowledge and experience in minds, I think, is the best. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that because it's so easy to go in to any of these scenarios and just want to be the agreeable person that doesn't make waves because we're tired of being an inconvenience and a negative person and a suffering person that makes other people uncomfortable. But the more that people like you and me have these experiences where we are still being our emotional, vulnerable selves and advocating for ourselves and not shrinking back down and just agreeing, the more that people are going to have to listen, because we have voices, we are people, our experience is valid, and it doesn't make us any lesser of a person. And being any lesser of a person, obviously, like I said, is a struggle for me. I still every day think, if I do this certain thing, is that person going to, not want to be around me? Is that employer not going to want to keep me employed? Like, where is the line? But if I'm being authentic to myself and like still fucking trying like a goddamn warrior every day to make this life the best I can for myself, then I'm not going to feel bad for being expressive of what's really going on. Because sometimes you just also don't have the energy to put on a brave face. Like, you shouldn't have to do that. You should get to say, hey, today is this kind of day. That's what it is. And it could be different 5 minutes from now. So that is just a discussion that I wanted to bring to the table today. So be open, be vulnerable, be an advocate for yourself, and do it with love and calming energy and understanding that other people are navigating new territory as well. So I hope this helps somebody. Till next time.